So well, so we're gonna get rid of no running. I've talked about this. There is no running in the office.
The fact that I can still run at this age,
Yeah,
that's a pretty
you're gonna
good
need
thing.
physical therapy maybe.
I know.
Hopefully you didn't get hurt. Okay, so my name is Fritz Pollard. I'm a MAPS coach, executive head coach with the MAPS coaching organization that's tied in with KWRI. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, I have my office right here in the coastal office. And today we're going to start discussing the day 2 of Mega Camp that wrapped up at the end of August. So we had done day 1 in another setting. I wanted to get to day 2 because we have videos of those presentations and there is a time limit in which we can watch those. So what I'm going to do in going through my recap of day 2, I'm going to actually give the name or the label of the little video excerpt. They were anywhere from 7 to 12 minutes long. And if anything that I discussed today kind of rocks your world or moves the needle a little bit, you can go back, get to your leadership, and they can take you through and pull those videos up. The other thing that I want to focus on is I did identify 10 videos from day 1 and 2 that I would highly recommend that you watch. I think it's appropriate for not only our market area, but the time that we're in here in 2021, heading into 2022. We're going to be starting business planning very shortly here in the MAPS coaching division. So these 10 videos I felt really struck a chord with me. A lot of the notes that I took are from those 10 videos, and you can actually check in with Deb and get a list of those in addition to what I'm going to go through and cover today. So today is day 2 of Mega Camp. Now, these are just my notes. All right, they come right from the videos that I saw. I'm going to expand on them a little bit. I do want to share with you, though, if you get moved by anything or you have a question about anything that we're going to talk about, please put it in the chat and Deb will interrupt me. I'm very much a interactive presenter. I love it when you're paying attention enough to say, hold on, stop. Could you elaborate on that thought, or could you give me more information on that thought? And of course, I love my books, and I've got a couple of book references here that I think tie in really well with some of the things we're going to be discussing. So day 2 of Mega Camp. And again, I believe we've got 60 days from when Mega Camp ended to have access to the video library. So that's now, we're about a month beyond, maybe 4 weeks beyond Mega Camp. So time is of the essence. So if there's anything here that you really liked or want to get access to, don't wait too long, because really end of August, into September, into October, we're probably about 6 weeks away from those videos going away forever. So again, don't waste any time if you're interested. Okay, so the way Mega Camp works is you open with 2 general sessions, 1 on each day. That's for about 2 hours. There were a lot of little video excerpts, and again, each one of those is categorized on the Mega Camp platform that you can go back and see. Then we go to lunch, and then after that, they have, again, breakout sessions that you can pick different topics. So I'll do my best to label those that I'm covering so you could go back and watch those. So this is from the general session, my opening notes. And this was Gary. I believe we also had Jason Abrams was part of this group, and they were just having a discussion about the market. So here's some notes that I wrote down. He says, all success is based on simplicity. All success is based on simplicity. And I want to expand on that a little bit, because in coaching, we say that real estate is simple. It's just not easy. It's really a simple business. We make it harder than it needs to be. And in our meetings that we have, we talk a lot about that is what are we making this business into? What stories are we creating around it? It's really a simple business. So what I'm going to challenge all of you to do, especially as we get into 2022 business planning, is how can you simplify the parts of your business that are working? Okay, let's definitely source our business. Let's look at the things that we're doing that create business and simplify it. And one of the things you're always going to get from me is let's identify what's working and then 10x that if we possibly can. But at the end of the day, it's a super simple business. We make it harder than it needs to be. One of the things that Jason Abrams said, and this really resonated with me, and I'm going to tie it into some of the other videos, is he said, we need to be more human with more people more often. We need to be more human with more people more often. And here's what I'm going to tell you about what I take from that. We call this a sales business. Okay. It's real estate sales. It's got commissions connected to it. I'm going to argue with you that what we learned through COVID, what we learned through 2020, is that we need to be more of we need to connect more with the client. We started doing care calls to our databases. What did we find? There was a tremendous amount of business there. You're going to hear one of the videos I'm going to talk about. It's the Kendra Scott interview. For those of you who know Kendra Scott, I didn't know who she was until the video. And yet she's an Austin resident who has built a billion-dollar company selling jewelry. One of the things that she talked about in her video, an hour-long interview with Gary, is that she focuses on the connection first, and she says the sale will come. And I take the jewelry world and I apply it to our world. Say, what if we just focus on connecting more and not selling houses? Just go connect with people. Well, that ties into what Jason said. Be more human with more people more often. Go connect with people on a human level and then stand back and watch what happens. Hello, that's simple. If we focus on that aspect versus I need to go sell a house. Maybe you need to get that concept a little bit more deeply ingrained and stand back and see what happens. Jason also said, selling real estate is not average camp. What we do is not for the average person. It's not average camp. And I truly believe we've got the tools here at Keller Williams to be way more than average, but you got to plug in and engage and absorb. So I don't know, that it's just something he said. If you want to watch that opening segment, you'll see this great dialogue between Jason and Gary Keller. And you're going to hear a lot of this around time blocking and so forth. There was a discussion around people spend their life looking to avoid life. People spend their life looking to avoid life. And when we get into time management here in a few more segments, what I took away from that in the discussion that was unfolding is you do have to do the work and we have to live the life of a successful agent. And if you find yourself resisting that, we may want to stop and just say, is that serving you? Is that working for you? People spend their life looking to avoid life. We do need to get up and engage. And what I would argue is there is so much with the Forward Living Group that is out there to help you make it an easier journey. So plug into what works. I mean, the amount of time I've spent with many, the guy can't give enough. And so what I'm going to ask you is what part of this life process, this journey, are you avoiding? Okay, that's just a personal thing. Okay, we heard in that dialogue between Jason and Gary, the path is in the math. Most success can be broken down to a mathematical equation. What math is there in our business? Well, we usually have a goal. It has a unit number connected to it. It has a GCI number connected to it. There's an amount of clients that we want to serve. Now, there's a different thought. Instead of setting a goal, set how many clients or families am I going to serve this year? And get with some of your leadership. The path is in the math. So we can break this thing all the way down to, what is today, the 16th? What we need to do on the 16th, numbers wise, to get to this end result. But if we just get up and start wandering around, we're going to make this a lot harder than it needs to be. The path is in the math. Okay, now this was great. This was a Gary Keller exchange. He talked about, he says, our Achilles heel is we've got ants in our pants. Our Achilles heel is we have ants in our pants. We're like a pinball in a pinball machine. We're always out looking for the new thing. And this is where the simplicity thing goes out the window. Have you thought about what's worked for you in the past? And you know, Gary loves database is your data bank. So we're probably going to start with the database. This group here that you see behind me, we get together on Thursdays at 3 and we spend a lot of time talking about the database, developing the database. But when you get ants in your pants, every person you talk to and find out what they're doing, and then we start chasing them, is likely not going to create a simplistic business. It'll probably create a lot of chaos and frustration. Now, this is a great point. I don't know who said it. I know Gary says it a lot, but I want you to write this down when it comes to simplicity and not having ants in your pants. He said, we overestimate what we can do in a year. We overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 3 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I could just stress this point, if we keep this business simple and we focus on high return activities and we stay consistent with it, you will be blown away by the progress you can make in 3 years. But have ants in your pants, chase every shiny object, sign up for every lead generation tool there is, run around like crazy, your hair on fire. I don't know where you'll be in 6 months, and it may not be in a good place. The path is in the math. We overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 3 years. Okay. Now, get this. This is a really good passage, and I'd really highly recommend get with your leaders, watch day 2, the opening segment. Gary says this: build a big business by starting a great small business and let it grow. Build a big business by starting a great small business and let it grow. Now, this gets back in that underestimating what we can do in 3 years, because as you create a consistent, repetitive, daily set of activities and just get consistent with it and create habitual activities that become religious activities that you do over and over and over again, stand back and watch this thing really expand. Build a big business by starting a great small business and let it grow. He then went on to say, ask and listen to people through your heart. Now, this gets back to that connection piece. Ask and listen to people through your heart. Serve them. The care call. I'm going to go back to the 20. Let's just go back to 2020 with COVID. We didn't think anyone would buy and sell houses through a pandemic. What we found is a ton of them did. But when we showed up with a care call perspective and we listened to people through our hearts, what can we do for you? Where can we support you? Heck, we had agents in their staff running around picking up pharmacy pickups and delivering them to homes of people that shouldn't or couldn't go out. We were buying groceries for people. That's serving through the heart. Ask and listen to people through your heart. And then Jason Abrams said, there is joy in the valley. Embrace the curveballs that this market can throw us. There is joy in the valley if we open our eyes and say that there's opportunity even through a worldwide pandemic. I mean, if you think about it, some people had their best years ever. And we would have probably chosen a different outcome if we were guessing. And ultimately, we ended up having an amazing year. And then that just rolled right into 2021. Okay, now these next two are really, really important. Extraordinary is ordinary people that do the right things. Extraordinary is ordinary people that do the right things. I'm going to go back to the path is in the math. What are the things repeated day after day after day that statistically speaking create a great real estate outcome? Let's go serve the people. Let's go lead with our heart. Let's go connect. And done over and over and over again. Extraordinary is ordinary people that are doing the right things. And then he went on to say, extraordinary people are different before noon. Extraordinary people are different before noon. Now, what I'm here to tell all of you is when you look at that schedule, we are, and if you've read the one thing, our willpower is strongest in the morning. And so what does your plan, what does your math tell you about connections in the morning? It just wears out late in the day. Now, if we were all playing, and there used to be the story about Guns N' Roses. Do you guys know who Guns N' Roses are? They had this storyline that if you ever went to a Guns N' Roses concert, you never knew when it was going to start. So if they were the headliners, they had the opener, maybe the opening band is at 8, and then they had another one at 9, and they're supposed to go on at 10. Good luck if they went on by midnight. That's a different schedule if your day starts at midnight. But that works for a rock and roll band. It doesn't work in our world. Extraordinary people are different before noon. So what is your plan before 12 noon? Just a thought. Okay, now that was the morning opening main segment of day 2, and day 1 had again their general session opening. And if we were live at Mega Camp, it'd be the same thing. Okay, that general session. So now we're going to go to then the little breakout sessions. And this first one that I'm going to and again, these are just really quick little excerpts. And again, if anything registers with you, go find this video in the library. This one was hosted by Cody Gibson, and it was the amazing Kristen Cole. I know Kristen Cole. I've seen her do some amazing presentations. The one she was actually doing was on expansion, but she actually shared something that I've written down, and I've heard her say it before. Her team lives by what they call the 4 G's: grit, growth, grace, and giving. Grit, growth, grace, and giving. So when I hear these things and I know how successful she has been, her expansion teams are, in fact, she used to teach expansion for KWRI, and she's just a really good human being. And you look at those 4 G's, what I would challenge you to do is, what is your mantra? What is it that you want to be known for? We often say is, what do you want it to say on your tombstone? Now that may be a little bit morbid, but what would you like people to say about you at your memorial service? Those 4 things for her are really important. They talk about them all the time with the team. So what are we going to talk about you about when you retire? And have something you can get behind that's meaningful to you, that moves your heart. And then go show up every day and go do that. Okay. Then we went to, so that again, that would be on expansion. Kristen Cole, Cody Gibson's the host. Nick Waldner, another great presentation, and he was talking about database. And we all know that on our 36 touch, many are doing way more touches than that. We talk a lot about the 36 touch, and we may actually do a little bit of wrap up on that before we're done here today, once we're done on this show. But at the end of the day, we want to call our database 4 times a year. So take how many people are in your database, by the way, divided by 60. That's the number of business days every 3 months. And that's how many people you need to call a day. Oops, I just gave you some math, so I'm going to give it to you again slower. Total in your database, you divide it by 60, And that's the number of people you need to call every day, and you'll get through your database 4 times a year. So Nick is talking about that, and he says, come with an item of value. And what he's doing right now is talking about Keller Mortgage and refis. What a great care call to say, are you aware historic low interest rates? Have you refied? But watch this, ladies and gentlemen. Here's his script. Unless you're planning to move within the next 2 years. Refi may not be a good idea if you're planning to move in the next 2 years. Oh, so by the way, are you planning to move in the next 2 years? What did he just do?
Figure out who's might be listed.
Who's now business?
Yeah.
So it starts as a care call. Remember, we said lead with your heart. We can save our clients, our database, our data bank, hundreds of dollars a month, if not thousands. The last refi I did saved us thousands a month. Oh, that is unless you're planning to sell in the next 2 years. Are you? No, we're staying here. Great. Let me give you the name of our lender, KW Mortgage. And ultimately, we are going to, give you an opportunity where we can save you a ton of money. Unless you're planning to sell in 2 years. Are you? Yeah, we were actually kind of thinking about it. Okay, great. Different conversation. And yet it starts with a carrying perspective. So again, that was Nick Walder. It starts off with calling the data bank, and I go, that's a script we need to get out to the crew. Okay, Keith Cunningham, I didn't bring that book out. Keith Cunningham wrote a great book, a business book called The Road Less Stupid. Great friend of Gary's. He's had him on Mastermind calls that I've been on. He just happened to make a great comment. Nothing changes until the unspoken is spoken. Nothing changes until the unspoken is spoken. So what I would challenge all of you, and by the way, Keith Cunningham wasn't on, it just, Gary referenced that comment. And, we talk a lot about, and you're going to hear what Jordan Freed said, one of our great coaches, about mindset here in a minute. But I want to challenge all of you. If you're finding you're stuck, what's the unspoken word or discussion you haven't had with yourself yet? Because if you're stuck and you're wondering, what do I need to do to get unstuck? You may have to have that conversation. Go talk to your leaders about that. From many on down, are great team leaders. Nothing changes until the unspoken is spoken. Okay, now this is going to get really good. There was a panel, and this was one of those on the short list that it's just a discussion that I think I'm going to make mandatory for anyone that's an earshot of this presentation. It was with Jordan Freed, one of our great executive coaches, Liz Landry, one of our great executive coaches, and Abe Sharif, which runs MAP's business and now is director, manager of MAPS.
So just, what did you do? Did you just send in Glendale? Or how many are there on that list?
I think that's someone that should be on mute.
Yeah, she is now.
I just muted her. Sorry about that. I don't know.
I'm pretty sharp on this Zoom stuff. I just, that was not a question for us.
I don't think it was a question for us.
I'm getting better every day with this whole Zoom thing. I think it's going to be here for a while. So there was a great discussion with those three coaches and Gary. So what I want to give you right now is some of the highlights that came from that discussion. Now, this will probably spark other discussion points that leaders you may have to have with some of the people after I give this information. So Liz Landry, for the first time I've ever heard, gave a great breakdown of 3 levels of agents and what they may need. Now, again, until the unspoken is spoken, this may be one of those internal dialogues that we may need to make an external dialogue. So here's what she said. If you're less than 10 million in production, your issue is generally based in activities. Less than 10 million. Well, here's the problem with everyone that can hear me. This is not Arkansas. So 10 million actually in our marketplaces could be 30 million. And by the way, for those that have seen me speak, I think one of the biggest challenges we have as an industry in California, you make too much money on every deal. Now that's just a personal thing, but when you can go out and sell a house and make 30 grand, I may not see you at tomorrow's class. If we were in Arkansas and you're making 5,500, you've got to do a lot more volume. So again, these volume numbers probably need to get adjusted because this is a California audience. The reality is less than 10 million. You'll hear it when you watch it. It's probably an activities issue. So leadership, if someone comes to you and goes, what was that crazy coach talking about? Less than 10 million, I'm less than 10 million. We probably need to focus, if you're interested in doing more, on your daily, weekly, and monthly activities. From 10 to 50 million, it's a systems issue. From 10 to 50 million, it's likely a systems issue. Okay. If we're 50 million and greater, it's a people or leverage issue. Less than 10 million activities, 10 to 50 million systems, 50 million or greater, it's usually a leverage or a people issue. Okay, so as you're listening to this, all out in the forward living world, you might want to kind of size this up and go, oh, wow, I think that struck a chord. I need to get to one of my leaders. You can reach out to me. Maybe we need to get a coach in the middle of this. I don't know, get your PC coaches. But I think this is a really good roadmap to get you to the next level. Okay, any questions around that? Okay, good. You break in if there is one. Okay, now this next one came from Jordan Freed. Jordan is a well-studied, well-versed, powerful coach. And anytime he's speaking on anything, I'm always tuned in. He said this, and it's going to change the way I'm going to do business planning with the teams that I coach this year. He said, if you hit your listing taken goal, he has never had an agent miss their unit and GCI goal. I'm going to say it again. If you hit your listings taken goal, he has never had a client of his miss their unit or GCI goal. Now, listen, for all of you that work with buyers agents or buyers, you all buyers agents out there that are working with buyers, it's been a tough road to hoe. You get on the listing side and watch the crowd run to you in a matter of hours and know that you're going to get paid in 30 to 45 days. Okay, so the reality of hitting that listing taken goal really resonated, especially after the year that we're just coming out of. So one of the things I'm going to do with all of my clients when we start doing our MAPS business planning and we set up our tracking hubs is I am going to focus on one goal this year. After units in GCI, it's the listings taken number. And we are going to pull out all the stops and what we need to do to hit that number. It's the only thing I'm going to talk to my clients about this year. The only main topic. Now we're going to get to a GPS focus here in a minute, but everything's going to trickle down in my world around that one goal. So I want you to sit back and think, geez, did I even set a plan last year? And how many listings did I intend to take? And how distracted or lack of focus did I have around that? And if we could come back to that, let's prove Jordan right, because I think he will be. Gary says that we would get 2 buyers from every listing. And you can start now piecing together that path is in the math outline to get to a goal. Just putting it out there. Okay, then Abe came in. So this is going to get a little bit into scheduling and time management. Abe then said, we are distracted today and we like to be distracted. We are distracted as an industry today, and we like to be distracted. Ooh, that's a little bit confronting. We actually like it. It's exciting. I don't know what's coming next. You know, remember, from the disc perspective, driver expressive, the high I, we love the excitement of what's around the corner in 10 minutes. So remember, the human mind loves variety. It keeps us from getting bored. Remember, I said real estate is simple, not easy. Is simple being okay with the repetitious boredom? So maybe that conversation that Keith Cunningham was suggested, nothing changes until the unspoken is spoken. Maybe we need to get real around the fact that we love distraction. Our problem is it's killing us in this business. Okay, let's continue on. Now, this is again, classic Jordan Freed. He says success equals just two things. He calls it the two M's. It's either a mechanical issue or it's a mindset issue. So mechanics could be the schedule, it could be the activities, it could be that kind of doing thing, or it's our mindset. One of those two things is keeping you from everything you want. He calls it the two M's. Now, there's a great phrase, and he mentions it, and it's from the Inner Game of Tennis. You're like, Fritz, what are you talking to me about a tennis book? It's a really great book that has a lot of applications to the business world. But they said performance equals potential minus interference. Performance equals potential minus interference. So if you go back and look at this little passage, when Keith Cunningham's comment, nothing changes until the spoken is unspoken, and we start talking about the distractions and maybe our love for them, and then the mechanics and the mindset, those are really the two wars we're battling every day. And that our performance is really everything that we show up with is our potential, but the interference of our distractions is what robs us of tomorrow. All of this stuff started to just kind of sync up. I'm really going to recommend strongly you watch this segment. And you'll get to see all this unfold live. Now, something else, if you're working in a bigger team, again, another Jordan comment. He said, what is the organizational chart? What does it look like that gets you back to your ideal job description? So what does the organizational chart look like that gets you back to your ideal job description? So let's say, for the sake of discussion, we feel that our primary job description is I am the listing specialist. But we've got an admin that should be taking the files, but they don't always do a great job. So we take a file back and I start doing that so that we can get paid on time, we can complete the checklist. And then I may help a buyer's agent because they got sick, and I'm doing an open house, and now I've got a bunch of buyers and they're distracting me. And it's tough to work with a buyer, so I'm not doing my listing specialty or my listing specialist work as a priority. So what is the org chart look like that gets you back to your ideal job description? We get ourselves pulled away through these distractions, and we're not now living our ideal job description. Now, there's a book I want to share with everyone, and I have been hot on the trail. I'm going to get close on this. Who, Not How. This book is a game changer for our industry. In fact, it should have been written How to Succeed in Real Estate. If I could have just put segregation and said, this book is really for our industry. Who, Not How. This book will blow your mind. And it's not very big. It is so simple, it will blow your mind. But it pretty much says, we ask too often, how do we resolve X, Y, or Z? What the book says is change your language. Who do I need to resolve X, Y, Z? And it really gets back to this. What does the org chart look like that gets you back to your preferred job description. So got to get this book. It's got to be read before you do your 2022 business planning. Leaders, buy it for the teams, read it yourself, do book clubs on it. There are so many things in here that will change the way we approach our business. It's not even funny. And this segment reminded me of that.
So
Yes, ma'am.
Is it by Dan Sullivan?
It is. And they actually give to open each chapter case studies so that you can see where somebody's who that isn't in the mix causes someone to live a unproductive business life trying to resolve the how, and that when they find the who, everything changes. And we're challenged by that in this business because there are a lot of different things that we have to do. And I felt like that kind of connected all of the pieces that we've just been discussing. Okay, now we got to another great segment, and this is with Jeff Woods, who is the director of The One Thing, okay, and Abe Sharif. So this is their two, that they shared this as the host under time blocking. And by the way, we're almost done. So these are the final segments, and then we'll take some questions. I'll go back to anything that you've got a question about. So Abe and Jeff are talking, and they were discussing, we struggle with the priorities around what is important. We struggle with the priorities around what is important. And again, if you go back to extraordinary people are defined by what they do before noon. And if we all understand, if we're truly in this as a business, what happens before noon is critical to having a productive day. And then we look at our love of distractions, because I think it's kind of exciting. It creates variety for us. And then we get back to, and we say, well, the struggle with priorities around what is important, this all just kind of ties together. And maybe that's the conversation we need to have with ourselves. And so they quickly got to the GPS. Now, we in KW, we love our acronyms. We've got goals, we've got priorities, and we've got strategies. I have spent a lot of time following Jeff Woods. He had done a presentation for all the MAPS coaches. The guy he lives, eats, and breathes the GPS. And it's a really valuable tool for us. And so when he talks about creating so you got the one goal, also referred to as the 1-3-5, we've got the one goal, you've got the 3 priorities, and you've got the 5 strategies. What he says is that the 3 priorities, he said, you don't even think about priority 2 and 3 until you earn the right by completing priority 1. And I've heard him say before that in the GPS, priority 1 should get you to your goal. So then I start linking this back to what we get distracted by, and then that org chart that is not supporting our priority job description. And it just all ties together when we look at even how we set up a GPS. Then I go back to Jordan's, that if you hit your listing taking goal, you're guaranteed to hit your closing and GCI goal. Well, maybe the one priority, and this is what I'm going to do with my clients, should be, how am I going to hit my listing goal? And you don't earn the right to go to a second priority until you're on track for the first priority. So as you're doing goal planning and you're going through all the different processes that we have at KW in Forward Living, and I suspect that there will be some kind of goal planning seminar, let's really get clarity on what the leader of the One Thing says. That first priority should get you all the way there. And if it doesn't, go back and look at that one priority and say, how can I beef it up? I thought this was a really important segment of this video, in this interview, that is worth going through and looking at again. We had Mega Camp at the end of August. We're now middle part of September. Goal planning is a lot more on our minds than it was even just a few weeks ago. Now, there was a book that we made kind of part of last year's end called the 12-week year. And we did a lot of discussions on this. We had a lot of training on this. And without getting too deeply into it, that if you set a 12-week focus for your business and you actually grade it every week, and if you're hitting an execution factor of 85% or more, you tag 4 of those together, because there's 4 12-week segments in a year. Stand back and watch the simplicity of this business blow up to your favor. And so again, the GPS, business planning, focusing on listings, implementing not 12-month perspectives, but 12-week perspectives. And I thought this segment had a lot of tie-ins. Of course, I'm adding the book piece on top of it to sew it all up and bring it together. And then what was also referenced is the sign in Gary's office. Now, I've been in Gary's office a couple of times. It's like a museum. You want to talk about distractions. If you've never been in his office before, you could spend an hour in there just looking at all the guitars and the amps and all the cool stuff. But there's a sign in Gary's office that says, and I'm going to read it a couple of times, until my number one priority is done, everything else is a distraction. Until my number one priority is done, everything else is a distraction. So if you just kind of flow with me here on this final segment, we love distractions as a human being, but we don't earn the right to get distracted until our number one priority is done. And if we're challenged in our business here in 2021, I'm going to argue, what are you doing before noon? And what are you embracing as a distraction that's keeping you from getting where you want to be? Now, this was classic. He says, so often we are in the thick of thin things. We are in the thick of thin things. That's a Stephen Covey. So what are you in the thick of that's not serving you? And again, this may be a little bit confronting for some of you. Go, geez, I thought we were going to have a happy training class. This is happy. It's just getting real around next year being the best year you've ever had, and really saying, what is your schedule before noon? And what is my listing taking goal? And does my one priority in my GPS, is it robust enough to get me to the finish line? And of course, Gary talks about this all the time. We time block first our time off, and we time block next your one thing. And Gary talks about, and I was actually sitting in the room. We did this thing, it maps every month. We do what we call SOC, state of the company. So we would go up into Gary's meeting room and we would give the state of the company for maps. I'll never forget one time he said, I schedule work in between my vacations. He schedules his work in between his vacations. So the reality of that is he starts with the reward that good work provides. So when he talks about time blocking and time planning, plan your vacations first. Get with the family. What's important? Get those in there first, and then stand back and plug the work in next. Because the second thing you're going to plug in is the focus on your one thing. Now, one other video that I did not get to see, yet I heard rave reviews about, and I did put it in my top 10, was the interview with Sarah Reynolds. And Sarah Reynolds will do a couple thousand deals this year. And she has become a student of business. You know, we get sidetracked in thinking we're a real estate agent. Gary would argue we need to start growing into becoming business people that just happen to sell real estate. And what you're going to see in any interview, in fact, I'm going to argue that if you can ever see Sarah Reynolds speak, if she's in a breakout session when we go live, in family reunion, mega camp, mastermind, always take time to hear what she says. Her words are powerful and have a lot of wisdom in them. And I heard a lot of great things about her interview with Gary. I just didn't get to see it to comment on it, but she talks about setting boundaries in her business. So doing a couple thousand deals, running a massive team, and then finding that balance because, you know, we're dads, we're moms, we're business owners, we're leaders, and how do you make it all work? And there was a lot of good things in that. So if you do reach out to Deb and get that top 10 list, you'll see the Sarah Reynolds interview with Gary. Okay, so we covered a lot of things. It's just as I took notes as this thing was unfolding. Are there any questions from the audience or here? Deb, are you seeing anything show up on your end?
No question.
No questions. Everyone got it the first time. That's amazing and all good. So if there's no questions, what I'm going to say is I bid you farewell until we come back together again. What I'm also going to tell you, do not wait. And this is just a little bit of a Fritz soapbox thing. Do not wait to begin your business planning. I will have out next week our part 1 of our business planning process. It's September, for criminy sakes. But guess what? My team's November 1 is New Year's Day. I mean, that's just the way we roll. November 1 is New Year's Day. I wish we could put a deal together and get paid tomorrow. That's just not the way our business works. So don't wait until December to start your business planning. November is too late. So you got to start now. And I'd be getting with your leaders and saying, hey, what's the plan for our business planning classes? I'll jump in and do some if need be. Maybe we need to incorporate a 12-week year approach. I'm using this with my clients. Maybe we need to look at a GPS where one priority gets us the whole way there. Maybe this year we need to focus on listings first and hitting that no holds barred. So I will just leave you with that. The great part about Mega Camp in late August is it can get you really going to set up for a great 2022. And Gary said in the economic segment, he goes, plan on 2022 being very similar to 2021, maybe not as hot with the upward trajectory of pricing and you know, out of control overbidding and craziness. We're already starting to see buyers agents having a lot more success. Just a little bit more inventory. It's staying on the market just a little bit longer. We're starting to see price reductions. So my whole point in this wrap up here is don't wait too long to get next year's plan done, because you may be and should be starting to work that anywhere from October to November 1st. So that's it, gang. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something. And if you got any questions, reach out to your leadership. They can get to me and we'll go from there. All right,
Thank you,
Deb?
Fritz. Always a great presentation. We appreciate your time, energy, and effort. So
Not a problem.
thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you for tuning in.